Now we're talking. Alright, the fourth episode of the Book of Boba Fett has premiered on Disney+, so once again I shall talk about it with spoilers. That is a spoiler warning. If you have not watched this fourth episode yet, you should probably not watch this video. And this is a good one, so if you were like losing faith and losing your interest in spoilers, I don't care what happens, you should check this episode out because it's actually quite good. Then come back and watch this video. Alright, that is your warning. Let's dive in. And yeah, this episode is the best one yet by a clear mile in my opinion. This episode actually had some pretty cool stuff. So this middle mark episode starts out once again in a flashback, which at first I was like, oh man. But then I realized the flashback stuff is actually better than the present day stuff so far in my opinion. And it still kind of is. I didn't see that coming. And so it picks up where Boba Fett is leaving on his bantha from the remains of the Tusken tribe. And he's like, oh, what do I do now? And then we see this flare. And at first I was like, what is that? And then that musical cue came up. You know the one, that horn thing from the Mandalorian? That woo! That one. And it took my brain a split second to realize, oh shit, this is where we get to see Boba Fett rescuing Fennec Shand, which really means that these flashbacks take place in concurrence with The Mandalorian Season 1. That's actually really cool. That would mean that Boba Fett was down there in those Sarlacc guts for 5 years. Damn, that Beskar must be strong as fuck. But anyway, yeah, Boba Fett rescues Fennec Shand, as we saw at the end of episode 5 of Season 1 of The Mandalorian. And so he takes her to get fixed, and this is actually the scene where my biggest complaint about this episode comes in. And really, it's a nitpick. I have no problem with the setting or any of the characters here or the mechanics cyborg parts they have on. No, my real complaint is about the music here, the score. Cause again, it sounds all techno and I was like, this is way too techno for Star Wars. This is not the sound I'm used to when it comes to Star Wars music. I understand that the composers are trying to bring in new elements to the score, but to their credit, no, I don't like it. It doesn't work for me. Everything else about the scene was fine though. And so now that Fennec Shand is all fixed up, she has those cybernetic parts that we've been seeing since The Mandalorian Season 2 when they showed up. The next order of business for Boba Fett? Let's go get the Slave One back. Alright, answering the question I asked in my video on the second episode. How did Boba Fett reunite with the Slave One? Well, here's how. With the help of Fennec Shand. And so they infiltrate Jabba's palace and they get the Slave One pretty much without a hitch. And man, I'll tell you what, seeing the Slave One in flight again, it was so cool to me. It's a pretty iconic ship in Star Wars lore, so it's always cool to see it in action again, especially with today's visual effects technology. It looks awesome. So alright, next order of business, I have some scores to settle. Oh yeah, alright, those Nikto Raiders. Revenge time! You slaughter my tribe, I slaughter all of you. This was the first scene in this entire show where I was like, holy shit, that is awesome. Cause you see these Nikto Raiders going down on their speeder bikes and the Slave One just comes from up above. And like Daenerys on her dragon setting fire to that Lannister army after all that anticipation, the Slave One just comes down. I was like, woo, this is so cool. Just, there were some really cool shots in this scene. Like the shot where the Slave One is just coming right towards the camera. And then this shot where it's just firing on them. How can you beat that? I don't know, call me crazy, I just really like this scene. Coolest scene in the entire show by far, if you ask me. So alright, now that that's done, next order of business, we head back to the Sarlacc pit, cause Boba thinks his armor is still in there. I guess he wasn't completely conscious when the Jawas took it, so he thinks it's still in there. And alright, couple of things about this scene. First off, I didn't know that the Slave One could straight up defy physics. Look at that. How does that even make sense at all in the slightest? I'll let you know how. It doesn't. Then again, I'm no rocket scientist. But we're looking in the Sarlacc pit, and instead of any armor, we find that beak. Yeah, the beak from the special edition of Return of the Jedi. I was hoping we would never see this beak again, but whatever. But this is pretty cool though. They decide to blow it up with the seismic charge. I've always loved those seismic charges. And so this Sarlacc is officially dead now. I'm pretty sure it's safe to assume. And yeah, we find out during this conversation that Fennec and Boba have later that the actual reason Boba Fett didn't die down there in the Sarlacc guts is because of his Beskar. Fennec mentions it. The armor saved him from the stomach acid. Alright, well, that is a valid explanation. Props to the writers for that. We have established in Star Wars that Beskar is pretty much vibranium. It's basically indestructible, so it saved Boba Fett. Alright, cool. I can buy that. Now we have a complete explanation. Thank you, Star Wars. So alright, we couldn't find the armor just yet. So what to do now? Well, what do you think about usurping Jabba's throne? Alright, that sounds like a good decision. And from there, The rest is history. We know the rest. Cause now it catches up with The Mandalorian Season 2, where we saw Boba Fett, and we remember he gets the armor back from him, and then he goes back to Jabba's palace and kills Bib Fortuna and takes the throne. Alright, we're all caught up now. So I think it's safe to assume here that the flashbacks are over. When he gets out of the Bacta tank in present day, we hear that droid say that he's completely healed, which means he no longer has any use for that Bacta tank, at least for himself. And since the flashbacks were associated with that Bacta tank, since we're done with that, I think we're done with the flashbacks. Alright, well, cool. Solid storytelling there. Now that we're halfway through the season, I think that's good. And so now, back in the present day, we get more of Black Chrysanthemum in action. I'll be honest, I didn't think we were gonna see him again so soon. But he goes on this rampage in the cantina, and Garsa Fwit, the owner, even tries to stop him. And to her credit, no, she fails. We've heard that Wookiees are known to tear people's arms out of their sockets, and now we get to see that. Nice throwback. And I like the fact that Boba sees this and he's like, alright. You're hired. Looks like you need a job. Yeah, I love the fact that Boba Fett hires Black Chrysanthemum, cause I'm starting to really like this character. He is pretty badass. Cause I mean, even without all that armor and weapons, he could still beat the shit out of you and probably kill you. Just saying. And so now we finally have this council scene, the one that we saw in the trailer. We have each of the different houses of Mos Espa sitting here, and Boba Fett's like, alright guys, the Pikes are coming, war is coming. You guys don't want to team up with me? Alright, I'll go it alone then. I'll take on the Pikes myself, and I will make the city a better place to live. I'll make it safer. But in return, all I ask is that should the Pikes ask you to betray me, you remain neutral. You don't betray me. And so they agree to these terms, but I don't trust them. I'm pretty sure at least one of these houses will turn on Boba Fett. Come on, they look completely sleazy, don't they? All I'm saying is keep your eye on them. And so the last scene in this episode is this exchange between Boba and Fennec. And Boba's like, alright, yeah, the war is coming. We're gonna need some muscle. And Fennec says she might know where to look. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And then once again, that musical motif from The Mandalorian cues up. And I was like, oh, okay, what does that mean? What, are we gonna get a cameo from Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin in the next episode or something? Cause I'm pretty sure he's busy right now, you know, dealing with the Darksaber and Bo-Katan and all that we saw at the end of the finale of The Mandalorian Season 2. So, I don't know, it could be someone else from that show. I wonder who it is. I don't know, but I'm excited. Yeah, I'm very excited. Who could it be? In the end, this 4th episode of the Book of Boba Fett was a really good episode. It's a great episode, even. It surprised me in the best way possible. It gave me some really cool looking shit. Seeing the Slave One in action is always a treat for me. Those punks were nowhere to be seen, nor were their Power Rangers motorbikes. The action was actually good, and I hope they keep this momentum going for the rest of the season. Now that we're over the halfway mark, I think it's time to finally kick this show into high gear. So, the 4th episode of the Book of Boba Fett, titled Chapter 4, The Gathering Storm. Have you watched it yet? What do you think about it? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Now, if you'll excuse me, dude, holy shit. Have you seen the title announcement of that new Lord of the Rings show that's coming to Amazon Prime, The Rings of Power? Yeah, I'm gonna go watch that video over and over again, still. Cause oh my god, I cannot be any more excited for that. It's gonna be awesome. Peace!